And then immediately after the set, you said no one dies, but carnage itself means that people have died or been injured.
I'm Neil Christensen, author of Dark White and Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey. And you're listening to the Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey audiobook podcast. On this show, every episode, I'll read you one chapter of Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey, and then we'll be joined by a guest, author, editor, reader, pundit, to discuss the chapter, its merits, and its failures. These will be frank conversations focusing on writing craft. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey. Chapter 4. Elle screamed a little, cried a bit longer, and now she's sleeping in the grass with her head in my lap. The blaze burned for 2 hours while the fire department doused it with hoses and carried people out while wearing huge plastic masks that made them look like oversized insects. Now it's steaming in the moonlight as the last of the engines turn off their spinning red lights and quietly roll away from the carnage. As far as I can tell, no one died. Everyone lost everything, but no one lost their life. I find some consolation in that, even if it's only that it means the investigation will be less thorough. The police and fire marshals are still going through the wreckage, though. Long, heavy flashlights throwing harsh, narrow beams of impossibly white light in the distance. Many residents have already been taken to the hospital for examination. Most of the others have left for hotels or to stay with family or friends. I've been letting Elle get some sleep, but it's getting late, and I think it's time to get going. I shake her gently and brush her hair from her eyes. She opens them slowly, getting her bearings, remembering where she is. "Fuck," she says. Yeah, it's for real. We get up and walk her to my car. I put her in the passenger seat and grab the spare key from the magnetic box under the rear wheel well. As I walk around to the driver's side, I notice a tired-looking man in a cheap, wrinkled suit approaching us from the remains of the building. I stop at the driver's door and watch as he walks up. "You folks taking off?" he asks before he reaches me. I nod a tired answer and gesture towards the car. "I gotta get my wife to bed. She's pretty shaken up," I say. Sure. I'm Detective Upton." He puts his hand out for me to shake. I take it and oblige. "Malcolm," I say. "Malcolm Karma." "Karma?" he says, surprised. "Any relation to Asa Elle Karma?" "Yeah, she's my wife." He nods and smiles. "Well, very nice to meet you, Malcolm." "Likewise," I say in my most exhausted tone. He smiles again and gives me a once-over, then sighs and gives a little shrug. "Well, I won't keep you, Malcolm. We're just trying to get a record of where everyone will be for the next day or so, just in case we have to get in touch." I nod understandingly. "Right. We'll be at the Motor Lodge on Roosevelt Road." He scratches the information in a small, squarish black notebook. Halfway through, he pauses and looks up a little confused. "The motel, you mean?" "Yeah." "I'm sorry, I don't have a polite way of asking this, so I'm just going to say it. Why?" "Well," I say, with a slight edge of condescension, "I guess mostly because my apartment building was on fire." He looks up from his notebook. "Right," he says. "But why some fleabag motel? There's like a dozen decent hotels within 5 minutes of this place." "Their sign says they have color TV," I say. He doesn't seem to think this is funny. "Look, detective, I don't want to be rude or difficult, but I don't see how the place we stay in is frankly any of your business. It's late, and I really have to get my wife to bed, so unless there's something else." He's trying to mask his annoyance. Clearly he's not used to people talking to him this way, but after a moment he shakes it off and smiles back at me. "Of course. I'm very sorry. I was just curious. Call it a professional habit. It doesn't matter at all. Just one more quick thing then. I just need your apartment number, so we can make sure any personal items that may have survived get returned to you." I look past him at the charred remains of our building and try to imagine a scenario where anything in the whole place survived intact. I look back at him and rub my eyes with my palms in exhaustion. Uh, 106, I say. It's around back. Was around back. Got it. Thanks so much, Mr. Karma. We'll be in touch if we find anything out. Great, I say. I climb into the driver's seat of my car and turn the engine over, drop the gearbox into second, feed it gas, and pop the clutch. I let the tires squeal before gunning it out of the parking lot. It's true what I said about the motor lodge. They do have color TV, but that's not why we're staying there. Someone just burnt down my home, and no part of me thinks it was an accident. I quit my job with Mika Cole, and despite her kind words and the lump of cash that I, thankfully, left in the car this afternoon, I know that this was at best a warning. More likely it was intended to be my real retirement package. With any luck, Human Resources thinks they did their job and isn't looking any further. But I'm certainly not going to risk running my credit card at the fucking Holiday Inn. A cash room and an unlisted motel is what this night calls for. I need to get Elle some sleep and help her calm down. Tomorrow, I'll start figuring out what comes next. I have to deal with the fire, but also I have to look into the Kelly Phillips situation. Both of these mean dealing with Mika, and now that's going to be much, much more complicated. Hi, you've just finished listening to Chapter 4 of Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey on the Malcolm Karma Cold Turkey audiobook podcast. We're now in the discussion phase, and today we have Josh Paulabicke on to discuss the merits of Chapter 4. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Neil. Thanks for having me. I was excited to read your book and join in.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, and I thank you very much for taking the time to be here. First of all, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a writer. What are you working on? What do you have out? What do you want people to know about?
Nothing out so far. I'm working on my debut novel. I am on the last couple chapters, and then I have a retreat coming up later this month, which I'm planning on editing a big chunk of it then. My first book that I'm writing is a speculative science fiction set about 150 years into the future. And I don't have the pitch quite crafted yet to where I'm ready to put it out in the world. So I'm going to keep that close to the chest. But I'm also part of the leadership team with the Writing Heights Writers Association here out in Colorado, but we have members all across the country. So if there's any writers out there looking to find their community, find some resources, we have two monthly classes, critique sessions, poetry critiques, marketing sessions where you can bounce ideas off other writers and try to pick their brains on how best to market themselves as authors and writers and get their books out to the readers. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Well, great. We'll put links to that in the show notes so that people can follow that to there and find out more information.
Excellent.
Josh, you read chapter 4 or up until chapter 4 at least.
Yep.
So let's dive into it. It's a short little chapter. Not a whole lot happens, but I think some development happens. So tell me what you thought.
Well, I think this is the chapter, and like you said, I stopped at chapter 4 because I didn't want to influence my interpretation of the chapter. But I feel like this is where everything kicks off. Like the inciting incident happened in chapter 3 with the explosion in the apartment, and I feel like this is where our main character Malcolm is like really starting to go, okay, here's what's got to get done. So I was really happy that I got drafted that chapter because I was like, okay, this is a fun one. This is really good. And I'm glad I didn't get chapter 3 because of the spicy scenes. I was like, I don't know how to talk about that. I don't have any spice in my books, but it was fun to read that little bit. And I feel like the world is being crafted up to this point, and I'm excited to see where the ball starts rolling. So that was my initial take of the overall chapter 4. But I got some little notes on little things that I was picking up on. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's go into it. Start with
Okay.
wherever you want.
All right. So when the scene opens, the explosion has happened and they're sitting in the grass, and Elle is she had fallen asleep. And I think to me that didn't it was odd to me as I read it the first time. And the more I thought about it, I'm going, okay, Elle as a character is a lawyer. She's a prosecutor, works for the state. So to me, that profession draws in intelligent, justice driven, um, ambitious, like competitive nature. And for her to see the explosion happen and calm down and then fall asleep, I was like, if I'm writing or if I'm reading that character, her brain is going, who did this? This didn't happen. This probably didn't happen naturally. Who do I need to call? Like her, she's going to be going through the prosecutor checklist, right? Like, what's going on? I need to talk to some people. I need to figure out. Like, I think that's where her brain would be. So I don't see her falling asleep in this chapter. I see her being very rattled, but not falling asleep. So that was something that I don't think it'd be a tough change when I was reading it a second time. I was reading chapter 4. I'm going, she doesn't necessarily have to be asleep. She could just be like sitting quietly, pondering what's happening, like kind of getting in her own world and trying to assess. So she goes, like I said, she goes into once her nerves come down, she goes into prosecutor mode, and her
Hmm.
brain starts going through all the pieces, right? So like I feel like this chapter could be an excellent opportunity to really develop Elle as a character and create that conflict with Malcolm in, okay, now I got to navigate my wife trying to investigate why her house got blew up with while letting her know that I don't have this background. So like it's a great opportunity to really build that tension if you sit with Elle's character a little bit more and try to like think like, okay, if she doesn't do that and she starts really getting into her prosecutor psyche, what does that do? What comments is she adding to that scene where he's trying to juggle firefighters, detectives, his wife? He's got all these things going on, and he's also trying to think, I got to figure out how to get Mike off my ass, right? Like, so those are some opportunities where I think you can really develop Elle as a character. And um, yeah, so that was the main big thing I took away. There was two minor, just like my editor hat went on.
Yeah.
Early, like second paragraph, you said I was taking in the carnage or something where you said carnage. Um, and then immediately after the set, you said no one dies, but carnage itself means that people have died or been injured.
Okay. Okay.
I was thinking destruction. I was taking in the chaos, the destruction, or something more of a physical thing. But let me get your. What do you think about
I think
why
that
did you choose Carnage? Yeah.
um so, it's one of those things. I wanted a more powerful word than just uh destruction. I wanted a more emotional word than just destruction. Um and I hear what you're saying in terms of like strict definitions, but I think that for your average reader, your average person, that they would not necessarily even think about the idea. I
Mhm.
mean, I certainly didn't when I wrote it. Like you're
Yeah.
right in retrospect, but I don't think that your average person hears the word carnage and immediately thinks people died. I think that for most people in their head, it just means like severe chaos and destruction, right? This,
Hmm.
um, and so you're not wrong about that. But that's one of those places where, the English language is something you can kind of play fast and loose with. And I think that even if pre-publishing, an editor had come to me and asked me to change that because of the strict definition, I probably wouldn't have.
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
I like the emotion that it gives as opposed to its strict literal definition.
okay. I always like to say when I talk about the English language or writing in general, it's like English English is the dumpster of all languages. So it's just a melting pot, stew pot of craziness that there's no real typical rules. So
Well,
no, I fully agree. And Carnage for me is so tied to the Marvel character.
yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, so maybe it's my upbringing and where I grew up as I hear Carnage, I think character, and he is this pretty much he looks like a blood monster.
Yeah.
Like so that's where
Yes.
I tied the word to. But um and then the next one, the other word phrase was impossibly white when you're talking about the um use of flashlights.
Hmm.
I don't know, like to me when I read impossibly white, then I was like, well, it's not white then. Like like the impossibly, because it's such a definitive statement. I would have just dropped that if I was writing that paragraph.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have just said white beams. I think it needs some kind of
Yeah.
adjective or adverb there to help it out,
Mhm.
especially in that situation. There might be a better word for that. But again, like I don't know. When I think that when people say something like it's impossibly hot, it doesn't mean that it's not hot,
Yeah,
right?
it's like from Parks and Rec. I literally am this. You don't mean you're literally that. It's a euphemism, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
hyperbole, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Right.
All right. Okay. But yeah, those are two things as I was reading it a second time. I was like, I would have changed these two couple things, but um, the scene with the detective, right?
Hmm.
So they're going to the car, and the detective's like, oh wait, I need to get some information from you. There's a couple lines where I felt Malcolm was a little too forthcoming, like he offered up his last name right away. Where if he is a hitman, if he's this guy who's working in the underground, his first thought is, "Oh shit, there's a cop," and I don't want to give him a false name, but I also don't want to give him all my names. So it could be he offers up, "My name is Malcolm," and then the detective's like, "Malcolm what?" He's like, uh, and then there's that hesitation, that moment where he's like, "Shit, okay, they're gonna find it out in my apartment anyways." Here's my last name. And then it goes right into the detective being like, oh, are you related to this person?
Hmm.
They're like, yeah, she's right here. She's my wife. Um, So I think there's a couple paragraphs where you could have made it a little more cagey and just up that tension between the
Hmm.
detective and Malcolm, um, and then got into his inner monologue a little bit more, where he's like, "Okay, now I got to deal with this cop, and now he's got my information. Now he knows I'm tied to this. And now he knows I'm married to this." And so have that spiral going as he's talking to the detective. I think that would have heightened that tension just a little bit.
So that's an interesting comment. Um, and and I can see where you're coming from in that. But it's funny because I had another comment on chapter one that was similar to that. Excuse me, you have a burp in there somewhere. Um, ooh, excuse me. There we go. I'll edit that out. The in chapter one, he when he kills the guy in the alley, right? And
Mhm.
he talks about him thinking of his own blood mixing with
Mixing. Yep.
the other guy's blood in a symphony of DNA. They talk about how he goes through the guy's pockets, but he's not wearing gloves or anything like that, and he doesn't seem worried about that.
Mhm.
And now you're like, he's a hitman. He should be more cagey about this. He should be more, worried about, dealing with the police. And there is a reason that becomes clear why he's not, um, as we get into the book, but it's definitely something that was intentionally set up. He is not nervous around police. He's not nervous
Mhm.
doing his job. He's not, he doesn't feel like he needs to hide anything except like what he does, but but it wouldn't even occur to him that giving his name would be a
So
problem.
he's not worried about getting caught. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because like only being 4 chapters in. I'm like, is this confidence that he's not going to go to jail, or are you writing a character who's like a goon who's just kind of an idiot? Like he has these moments where he's not thinking things through. Like, is that I didn't know which direction you were going with that. And like I said, still early on in the book, so
Yeah.
that's gonna come to light, I imagine.
Yeah, he's not a goon exactly. Like he's not dumb. Um, he's a smart guy. He just is not, he's like the legality of what he does is not a concern to him in terms of repercussions for it. It is a concern for him, as we've like seen in previous chapters, in terms of like morality. Like he doesn't like what
Mhm.
he does. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He feels upset about it, but it's not concerning to him in terms of like, I'm going to go to jail.
Mhm. And when he was murdering the guy in the opening scene, it's kind of has that Dexter moment where he's like, "You know what you did," and he says
Mhm.
the name of Kelly, and he's like, and then he sees the flash in the guy's eyes where there's that awareness, and he interprets that as, "Oh, now he's guilty. I can do this without guilty conscience." Um, do you get into soon what happened with Kelly or what he was told had happened to Kelly? Because it's alluded that she was either beaten or raped or something awful happened from this guy, right? But it's not explicitly stated. And
I
I'm
think it
imagining
isn't.
that was a lie from.
I think it is in this chapter.
Is it?
Yeah. When,
I heard. Maybe I was reading it. I was reading it under Tired Eyes in the opening chapter. But if you know that line, then disregard that statement.
no, it's chapter 3. Um,
Okay.
just before the explosion, um, Elle is talking to him, and he said, "What was the case?" And she said, "Oh, a sad one. Young woman, a wife and a mother, was beaten pretty badly in a home invasion. Police think it was a robbery gone bad. Husband comes home in the middle of the night and manages to chase the guys off, but the woman is in a coma in critical condition." So,
Okay.
so
I think. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
what's being alluded to here is that the guy that he killed was the husband, right? The
Hmm.
husband was able to pick out two of the guys in a photo lineup. He was set to testify, but now we're back to having nothing. Um,
Yeah. I think I needed a little bit more on what he was told that the guy did. So obviously he was told that the husband had done the crime, right? From
um,
Micah.
so let me think here as in terms of what so yeah, I think what it comes down to, and I don't know, you may have a good point here in that. And this comes up in almost every conversation we have, is I have a tendency to hold as much information back as I can and only give people information when I have to. Okay, so I don't flood the audience with too much information. I like to keep things a little edgy and mysterious. And so I guess the head canon for it is he doesn't really know, right? He's told, here's the guy, here's like a dossier,
Hmm.
here's the victim, the reason we're going after this guy.
Yeah.
But it's not so much like this guy, like it's not he doesn't get a ton of information.
Hmm.
He gets like this girl was beaten and is in a coma, right?
Yeah.
This is the guy you're going to go get.
Yep.
So he doesn't know who
Okay.
the guy is in relation to her. He doesn't know, like, he just knows there's a victim and this is what happened to the victim. And this is the
Hmm.
person you're going to go get.
Okay. That works. That does segue really well into the withholding information is how long are you going to wait to tell us what happened to his arm?
Uh,
because he wakes up and he's bleeding and there's blood on the sheets, right?
hmm
Um, and that's like the opening line where I was like, okay, that's a good hook. That gets you into it.
hmm
And then he goes to do the job. But I don't know if I missed the line or if I it's coming up soon, but I'm still going like, what happened to his arm? Like, what did he do before he started going to murder people that
Right.
got him shot in the arm or stabbed in the arm or whatever it was?
So I never explicitly say what happened. It's you know, starting a story in media res. I'm not particularly interested in what happened before the story starts, but we don't start the story. I actually so this happened. I did this in my first novel, Dark White, as well, right? Because I have it. I like to start my stories in medias res, and uh, and it's not important what happened before. It's just I don't want to start a story with a like character that I just took out of the bubble wrap, right? Where the
Hmm.
character is like, oh, fresh new character here. Still got that new
Yeah.
character smell. I want the character to have been through shit already and we are just joining him at some point in his life. So, yeah, like we get the picture of what he does. It's not out of the question that he would become injured in doing his job.
Hmm.
um, but no, I never go back and explicitly say what happened to him.
As a reader, that's gonna drive me nuts. I feel like there's got to be that line where it's like, God, Micah's last job, that fucker pulled a knife on me, and now I've got my arm in a thing. Like one line where it just says, you don't even have to get it what the job was, why he was assigned to it. Just 2 nights in a row, I'm having to deal with knives and blood or something
Hmm
like that. And that implies like, oh shit, it was one night and right into the next night, and he's a guy that she's sending out on everything kind of thing.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
This isn't a chapter four thing, but we're covering up until four, and so I enjoy. I don't have a problem going back.
Yeah. Sorry.
Um, so in terms of like how stories change, right? Um, he the story didn't start that way. Excuse me. And I think actually talked about this when I talked about chapter one. If we go back and listen to that, but the when I talked to Ben about chapter one, he asked me if this was like how if it always started this way, and the answer is no. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't start this way. The first line was not "There's blood on my sheets." The first line of the story was actually. Um, I'm gonna have to find it here again real quick. Um, the first line of the book was sometimes in life, it's not about how you feel. Sometimes it's just about knowing who you have to be and then making yourself be that. And it went on from there. And what ended up happening is so in chapter one, he's like, he has a little bit of vodka, he gets dressed up, he goes out, he gets in the car, the rain is pounding on the car, um, and Johnny Cash is playing on the radio, and he needs to find this like person he needs to be. He needs to
Mm-hmm.
find, and he actually says it in there still. It means remembering that I hate myself, right? Um, and so in the original draft, he actually took out his switchblade and he kind of stabbed himself in the forearm. Like just put
Mm-hmm.
not like he was like, trying to end his life, but he
Like a
like
cutter kind of
like
thing.
a
Just
cutter
feel
kind of
that,
thing.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so he cuts himself and the blood soaks through his shirt and he feels that oily, sick, you know, feeling come over him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so that actually was there for a really long time. Um, what ended up happening was two things. I didn't want him to be self-harming.
Yeah.
I wanted him to hate what he was doing, but to be like in control, right?
Hmm.
And not like I feel like the self-harm adds a dimension to his character that I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then simultaneously, I felt like I needed a stronger opening, a stronger hook, a stronger like catch in there than this like kind of philosophical statement of, sometimes it's not about who you are, it's about making or what you feel. It's about having to be who you are. That just felt a little too like woo woo and touchy feely for like the first line of this thriller. So
Hmm.
I was like, okay, so he's already got an injury and he wakes up and there's blood on his sheets from the injury. And maybe it really was like throwing something in the dumpster. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
the honest to God question is now in this version of the story, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. But that's why it happened that way because originally that was him cutting himself, and then I left it all in there because I think it was an important like thing,
Hmm.
but I never bothered to like give a reason for it.
I think the opening line was super strong. Like that was an excellent hook, great opening line, and it sets the tone for the next what's to come. So I completely agree with your decision to go away from the philosophical statement. That's actually I'm going to be going in and rewriting my first chapter because I open with a something about the soul and everything, and I'm like, oh, this is if I'm reading a hard science fiction novel, I don't want to get into philosophy on page one.
Right.
So I'm going to go and rework that quite a bit, but I that it might just be me as a reader, but throw in one line where it's like, yeah, the asshole stabbed me last night. And then it also gives into the fact that he's away from his wife over and over and over, and that leads into the why he wants to get out, and it kind of builds that whole storyline. So one throwaway line I think is gold. But yeah, the last thing from chapter 4 um is he has the cash in the car, right?
Hmm.
The envelope of cash. And that made me think like, okay, if I'm Mika, I'm like, here's your retirement. Go enjoy your life. It would be, I'm like, why? What's the motivation to giving the money other than to calm his nerves and kind of give him like oh no, this is legit, sincere send off, right? I was thinking if Mika said something like, here's some money. Don't go spend it on a car. Do not go blow it in Vegas. I want you to use this to start your life, but start tonight by getting a bottle of wine, some flowers, and staying in at your home tonight. So it's like setting that seed in his mind where he's like, okay, we're gonna stay home tonight. I'm gonna start my life tomorrow. And then she knows he's gonna be in the apartment, right? So it's her seeding that like, okay, I'll spend 50, 60 grand or 70 or whatever it was because he's going to be off the radar pretty soon. So it's like her investment in closing that loop. Um, but
I,
yeah, I
I
wanted to get your take on it. Yeah.
I'm going to encourage you to read the rest of the book.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. I'm
That that
excited because, like,
that's what
yeah.
I'll say to that. Um, yeah, I man, my characters are always a little bit not what they seem. This isn't a mystery. This is a thriller, and
Mhm.
the difference being that mysteries, at least in my opinion, should always be fair play, where you have an opportunity from the clues given to solve the mystery,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
a thriller doesn't care whether you solve the mystery. The thriller is just to keep you on the edge of your seat. So
Yeah. It's the action beats, right?
if the rug gets
Yeah.
pulled out from under you in the last, two chapters, it's okay. That's what it's
Hmm.
there for. Um, but yeah, I will just tell you, read the book, read the rest of the
Okay.
book
All right. Good.
because
Good. Good.
all of those questions will be answered.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That was my biggest takeaways from chapter 4. Like you said, it was a short one, so I don't have a ton talk about. But yeah, I'm excited to keep going. I don't read a lot of thrillers, so this is like kind of out of my wheelhouse of what I usually read. So it's fun to
Uh-huh.
pick something up like that. Um, and it'll if you're up for having a chat after I'm done with the book, it'd be
Yeah,
fun to kind of go back and be like, so you said don't do this, that it's coming. And I was like, okay, all right.
you're the second person to ask me for that. So absolutely.
Nice.
I think maybe at the end we'll do kind of like a you know what might be fun is just invite as many guests as we can
Do
all
a big
on at the
group
same
chat.
time, a big group conversation about it and and go through what people, thought about the chapter that they were commenting on and then how their feelings changed or sustained throughout it. Yeah. How are you feeling about Malcolm as a character?
Well, that's where I was kind of alluding to earlier is I don't know if he's meant to be someone who is naive and fell into a life of crime and he's kind of just he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, or if he's a hyper competent hitman. Like I don't know where his character is going. Um, Once you bring in Elle and you start to see him wanting to get out of that life, it's like okay, so he's married to a lawyer who's a prosecutor. So I don't think he's dull. I don't think he's someone who's dense. And so it's starting to peel back the layers of who he is. Um, the scene of how he got in to the life was, I was like, all I was thinking is like any 19-year-old idiot who's just like, yeah, I'm gonna make some money could have fallen into that same situation. And I was like, that's gonna be memorable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's an engaging character, and I feel like you're learning more as you go chapter to chapter. It's not like a sometimes I read thrillers and they're the I'm a Navy SEAL who's also a PhD scientist in physics and I've flown a rocket to the moon and it's like no one can do it. There's not enough time in the day. So I want grounded, real people that I could go, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I can see where this guy is coming from and how his life is has progressed. So I'll be curious to see what comes next.
All right. Well, thanks, Josh. Thanks for coming on and giving me some thoughts. And I think that there was some really insightful stuff in there. And it'll be good to keep in mind. As I'm writing my next work in progress, I'm writing a legal thriller romance, a legal thriller spicy romance that is going to be or attempt to be fully a legal thriller and fully a spicy romance that the TikTok romance community would approve of, and have those both happen at the same time while also subverting tropes. So it's a big challenge. It's a big experiment. I may fail, but it is what I'm working on right now.
Excellent. No, I think that's good. What I don't like to hear is when people list five tropes in a spicy romance. Say, here, if you like this is my book. It's like, well, then why would I read your book if
Yeah, yeah.
you're going to tell me what happens in it and those are the things that are coming? Like, I get it for comfort reads, but I'll be curious to see what this next one was. Like I said, I'm terrible at writing romance and spice.
I
Like
it is
I've tried it and it is terrible. So I'm gonna just leave that to the others.
It is very, very challenging for me. I get very self-conscious, embarrassed, worried when I'm doing it. I actually, I don't have it here. I went and found online a a packet put out by a romance editor that edits romance books, and she did a huge survey of romance readers and asked for all the different words that they prefer or don't prefer for all the different things in, all the different body parts, all the different
Yeah.
kinds of actions and behaviors and stuff like that. And and she graphed it out. And so it's like literally like you can watch the curve of like these are the preferred ones down to like do not use these
Yeah.
so I literally keep that on my desk when I'm writing it and I'm just like okay I'm gonna write a spicy scene, what words do I use? Okay. um Malcolm Carmi actually reached out and got help in this for the spicy scene because I didn't feel like I could do it on my own, and so I wrote it and then sent it out for assistance and
Beta feed.
feedback. Yeah,
Yeah.
from some romance writers that I know that I trust to read my stuff. So, um, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's why this is a challenge for me. It's something that
Mhm.
I'm doing to test myself.
I I have one scene in my book, like two characters. The main character of one storyline has a romantic interest, and that's part of the crux of his decision making throughout the book. So I need to build that relationship, but there's only actual one scene of like where it's romantic and things start to take place. And I wrote 80,000 words before I went back to that scene where I'm like, all right, I got to write this thing. I actually got to dig in and do the work. And I went on a sprint on TikTok live and was chatting with some romance writers there. I'm like, can I send this to you? And they're like, oh yeah, please do. So I feel like I'm in the same boat where I'm like, all right, I wrote it. Now I'm going to send it to the experts and see what get their feedback. Make sure it's hitting the right beats.
Well, that's what editing is for, right? Like you got to write the first. I was avoiding writing my first spicy scene in this new piece, and I write consecutively. Like I don't hop around, but I
Mm-hmm.
will sometimes like write da 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 bracket fight scene bracket like da
Yeah.
da 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 and come back and do the fight scene or do that. But I was just like I was putting it off. I was stalling. I wasn't writing anything because I was just like the
Mm-hmm.
next scene is the sex scene and I don't want to do it. And so I'm just gonna and my therapist, I was talking to my therapist about it and she's like, Neil, your homework this week is to write that scene.
The red
You
scene.
have to do it. You have to get through it. Just write it badly. You can fix it later. Write it
Yeah.
badly. And I was like, yeah, that's what you need to do. You just need to write it badly and then come back and because the first draft is all bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to ripping mine to shreds at this point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like you did a good job though. It wasn't like you said, I've read some stuff where they hit those words and you're just like, ooh, I don't want to think about that in this situation. So I feel like the way you wrote it was tasteful and it hit the right tone. So it was good. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, Josh. I'm gonna let you get back to your workday. But I appreciate your feedback, and if you can let the listeners know where they can find you, social media wise, online wise, anything like that.
Yeah, I'm really only active on TikTok right now. I'll be getting my Instagram rock and rolling, but it's JR Paulabicki. That's JRPALUBICKI. And I have author on my TikTok handle, but and then Writing Heights. So writingheights.com is the Writers Association, and I encourage any writers out there to check us out because most of our stuff is virtual. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we can connect and get you guys connected with critique groups and feedback and just kind of build that community of writers so we're not all sitting in our basements and offices in the dark by ourselves.
That sounds great. Well, thank you again so much. Make sure you send me those links, and I'll throw them in the notes for everyone. And we'll try to set up something, when we get to the end of the book for everybody to come back and have their say on the book as a whole.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.